Good morning everybody, this is Lara from Pure Elliott Wave with your Monday to Friday update for Bitcoin, Ethereum and XRP. I'll add in Solana today, and I won't do Elliott Wave for Ethereum because Jack Frost did that for you yesterday. Price has been going sideways since it entered this consolidation on the 28th of February, so over a couple of months. It's very boring and we have to wait for the breakout above resistance or below support in order to have confidence that the larger upward trend is finally resumed. I expect obviously a break above resistance is most likely because at higher time frames the larger trend does remain up. There's no evidence that this sideways consolidation is the start of a new bear market. If it were, we would be expecting strong downward movement with an increase in volume and range and momentum, and we're just not seeing that. What we are seeing is a normal to be expected consolidation, which is part of a pause within a normal healthy bullish run. Last week there was a false downward breakout. Price quickly returned back to within the consolidation, so I've extended the lower edge of the rectangle to find support, final support, about 58,200, and there's resistance in a little zone about 71,500 to 73,100. Rectangles, when they occur in the context of an upward trend, 2/3 of the time breakout upward, 1/3 of the time breakout downward, so odds are we're going to get an upward breakout, and that's what the analysis of a higher time frame for Bitcoin expects is most likely. Price is moving sideways and overall volume is declining. That's a pretty typical feature of a consolidation. While price is in a consolidation, on-balance volume is within a consolidation. On-balance volume might break out prior to price, but I think it might break out with price because the lines are diverging, and so the range for on-balance volume is getting wider as it moves further sideways. Up to the last all-time high, that upward trend by ADX was indicated as very extreme. This big consolidation has pulled ADX down to a reasonably low level. There's plenty of room for a trend in either direction to continue. The consolidation has brought RSI down from overbought where it exhibited double bearish divergence. RSI is now below 50. There's plenty of room for a trend to continue in either direction, and money flow is neutral. Within this consolidation, price is swinging from resistance to support and back again, where stochastics is going from overbought, not quite reaching oversold, overbought, almost oversold. Overall, we would expect an upward swing within the consolidation now for price to continue on up to resistance about 71,500 or so, and stochastics to continue overall upward until it reaches at or very close to overbought. And depending on what ADX says, if price gets there, either an upward swing may end and a downward swing within the consolidation may begin, or if ADX indicates at that point an upward trend, then we may expect an upward breakout. We'll also be watching on-balance volume very carefully if price gets up toward resistance, looking for a breakout above resistance from on-balance volume. Technicals for Ethereum. Ethereum is also consolidating, and around resistance we've got some bearish reversal patterns. Around support we've got some bearish bullish reversal patterns. The last candlestick pattern was bullish for the 1st of May. This is a very strong bullish hammer candlestick pattern occurring just a little bit above support at 2,720. Support and resistance at 3,050 is now quite weakened, so I think I'm probably just going to get rid of that and add in a little bit of resistance about 3,200. Ethereum has swung from resistance about 4,100 down to support a little bit above 2,720. Let's see how it behaves if it gets back up to resistance at 3,200. Overall, for the last few weeks, it's just moving sideways with overall declining volume, although for the short term the volume profile may be bearish because there's stronger volume on downward sessions with volume pushing price lower than there is on upward sessions where volume declines, so we might see lower lows for Ethereum. ADX is declining. There's no clear trend at the daily time frame for Ethereum. A model of stochastics plus support and resistance would expect overall a downward swing at this point to continue towards support. Stochastics nearly reached overbought where price was kind of close to resistance. Stochastics is now moving lower, price is moving slightly lower. Let's look for potentially a short-term downward swing to continue towards support, and if stochastics is close to oversold, when price gets to support, the downward swing may end there. The Elliott Wave count for XRP sees a complete double combination for an intermediate degree second wave correction, complete at the low for the 13th of April, and there a third wave at intermediate primary and cycle degree may have begun, a third wave at 3 large degrees. The target 29.01 is where primary 3 would reach 15.66 times the length of primary wave 1. That is the ratio between primary waves 3 and 1 within cycle wave 1, so I'm using that same ratio to apply to primary 3 within cycle 3. If we see the same length of a big third wave again, then that would be potentially a potential target I'm not personally using this target for my own investing. I bought a bunch of XRP a few years ago, which is pretty much why I'm analysing it every day. I want to keep an eye on it. I'm not going to use this as a take profit or anything else. I just wanted to have a vague idea as to what might be possible for this market. And this is possible based on past behaviour. For XRP, technicals, neither bullish nor bearish really. It's just moving sideways with resistance around about 54-55 cents and support around about 49 cents. The last signal from moving averages was a death cross, but I'm giving that very little weight in this analysis. This bullish golden cross back here didn't yield higher prices. It was followed by lower prices, and that's a really good indication of why you should give these crosses of moving averages very little weight. Use them as a last confirmatory or lack of tool rather than any kind of leading indicator. Don't put too much weight on them. I want to see XRP break out above 54-55 cents, preferably on an upward session with push from volume, in order to have confidence that it is on its way up. But I think that we might have a low back here. For XRP, the volume profile for the short term is bullish. Since the last low, upward movement on upward sessions has more push from volume than downward sessions. For XRP, on balance volume now has a little range. Resistance line has 3 tests, so a little bit of significance. Support line, only 2 tests and a bit more of a slope, less significance. I'll be looking for a breakout of on balance volume by XRP's on balance volume in order to potentially provide an indication of what direction price may be going in. Sometimes the breakout from on balance volume comes before price, and then it's a leading indicator. Sometimes it comes with price, in which case it is a confirmatory tool. ADX is declining. It's now below both DX lines. It's set itself up for a signal either way. At the last low, RSI reached oversold. This is another thing, along with a complete Elliott Wave count for the correction, that tells me XRP may have found a low, because RSI doesn't tend to reach oversold very often on the daily time frame, and when it does, it tends to be associated with lows that are sustained. My Elliott Wave count for Solana at the weekly time frame includes all of the price history for Solana from this low just after its inception to this high in October 2021. There's a really nice looking 5-wave impulse. Primary 1, 2, 3, triangle for 4, 5. The subdivisions have a good fit, and there's beautiful alternation between a triangle of primary 4 and a zigzag of primary wave 2. Primary waves 2 and 4 have really good proportion, giving the impulse for cycle wave 1 the right look. Cycle wave 1 lasts just under 1.5 years, and cycle wave 2 lasts just over 1 year. So the proportion between cycle waves 1 and 2 is also really good, and it's the proportion between waves of the same degree that give a wave count what we call the right look. This wave count has the right look. From this low to this high, I'm seeing this as 1, 2, 3 and now 4. I have alternates moving the degree of labelling within part of this movement down 1 degree, but I think this is possibly the best way of labelling this. This wave count sees the middle of primary wave 3 within cycle wave 3, so the middle of a really big third wave having passed back down here about October, November last year. This is possible, and this wave count expects a long, strong, extended fifth wave for cycle 5 to end primary wave 3. That's entirely possible and actually really common for fifth waves to end third wave impulses in crypto to be the longest and strongest movement of the third wave impulse. That would take cycle wave 3 far enough beyond the end of cycle wave 1 so that then the following fourth wave for cycle 4 may unfold and remain well above wave 1 price territory. There's usually a really big gap between the fourth wave price territory and its counterpart first wave. Fourth wave price territory, its counterpart first wave, huge gap. So that's what I'll expect for the end of cycle 3, the end of it, and eventually the low of cycle 4 to be well above the end of cycle wave 1. So that means primary wave 5 should be a really long extension. Within cycle wave 1, primary wave 3 was 12.887 times the length of primary wave 1. So that's kind of close to the extreme Fibonacci ratio, 11.09. So that's the Fibonacci ratio I'm using to apply to calculate a target for cycle wave 3, which gives a target of 2,887 for Solana. And I would expect this to be met within a year, possibly within, 8 months or so. Not sure, but within a year. Drawing a trend channel around cycle wave 3 using Elliott's technique from 1 to 3 with a copy on 2 If primary 4 continues further, look for it to find final support at the lower edge of the channel, although I think it probably wouldn't get down that low. Primary 4 may not move into primary wave 1 price territory below 26.4105. Let's take a look at the structure of primary wave 4 at the daily time frame. Primary wave 4 may be subdividing as a zigzag, and within that, intermediate wave A may be a complete 5-wave impulse. Minor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Minor wave B may or may not be complete here. If it continues higher, it may not move beyond the start of A below 209.69606. A word about B waves. They are the worst. They exhibit the greatest variety in Elliott Wave structure and price behavior. They can be one of more than 23 possible Elliott Wave structures. B waves can be quick, sharp bounces or pullbacks, or they can be really complicated, time-consuming sideways consolidations, and it's impossible sometimes until after it's complete to have confidence that it is complete and what structure it was. It's a completely pointless exercise trying to identify what structure a B wave may be unfolding while it's unfolding. You really need to focus on trying to see when you can see a complete corrective structure and when the larger trend is expected to resume. I'm going to label intermediate B complete here potentially, but I'm absolutely open to it continuing higher as a double zigzag, sideways as a triangle, combination, or flat. Either way, I'll expect intermediate C to move below the end of A to avoid a truncation, and for now the point log function of the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio of primary 3 is a target for primary 4, 114.764490, although primary 4 could move lower than that. Alternatively, it's possible primary 4 could be complete as a double combination, zigzag for intermediate W, X, expanded flat for intermediate wave Y. This doesn't look like a really good looking double combination though, because for a combination, X waves are usually deep and time consuming. This one is brief and shallow. Combinations usually have a big sideways look to them, and this one has a downward slope, not a big sideways look. So this has reduced the probability of this alternate, but I want to consider what if the main wave count's wrong? What if from this high to this low, the structure for the correction is complete rather than a 5-wave impulse? How else could we label it? This is technically possible. It just doesn't have the right look. Technicals on the daily for Solana. At the last low, there's a bullish reversal pattern occurring just above support at 118. And now we've got some upward movement. Look for how price behaves at resistance at 168. Price is moving a little bit higher. It doesn't have good push from volume though, so that could have been a B wave. B waves should exhibit weakness in one or more of volume, range, momentum. So we've got some upward movement and it does have weak volume so far. So that does fit the main Elliott Wave count a little. ADX is declining. There's no clear trend. The model of stochastics plus support and resistance would say that stochastics is entering overbought. Price is nearing resistance. Look for the upward swing for price to end here or very soon, a little bit higher at that resistance, and then look out for a change and a downward swing from price and a downward move from stochastics to continue until price reaches support and stochastics reaches at or very near oversold. That's it from me with a quick update for you today. I hope everyone's having a lovely day.